in an effort to save her dying daughter. They accidentally end up in an alternate reality, and it's really scary. I hate when that happens. Silent Hill? Missing child in the opening scene? This is setting up to be a horror movie, but dive into it we shall. So the scene opens with a woman, likely a mom, screaming and looking for her child. Usual Hollywood trope, there's a teddy bear left behind, and for people like me who have made a hobby out of watching true crime documentaries, you know what this means. There has been an abduction. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking the child could have been lured away or grabbed and shoved into a moving vehicle, but my money is on lured and abducted. Let's see if my theory is right as the movie progresses. Anyway, the mother is still screaming and looking for her kid, and she starts to go deep into the woods until she busts out what looks like the Grand Canyon. I'm too scared of heights to be watching this really. Nevertheless, wouldn't you know, the mother finally sees her child, and boy was my prediction off by miles. Sharon, the child we've been looking for, is standing on the edge of a cliff and staring into the water. Oh my god, she's going to jump. Apparently there's this demonic looking child looking up at her from deep in the water and calling her soul or something, and just as she's about to jump, her mother comes in and grabs her. Dad comes to join them shortly as Sharon screams Silent Hill over and over again. Hey, that's the name of the movie. From the parents' conversation, it's not the first time this is happening or the first time she sang Silent Hill, so they decide something has to be done. And that's the prologue, guys. Somehow I already know that I should turn my eyes away from this movie because it's going to scare the life out of me. But alas, we shall proceed. I'll keep an extra pair of underwear nearby just in case. Of course, the main movie begins in a field all bright and sunny with Sharon drawing and showing off her painting to her mother. But we are not deceived, dear movie producer. We know this is just to make us feel comfortable so you can destroy us when we least expect it. Not falling for that. Like clockwork, barely 40 seconds into the pretty scene and the mother sets the stage for what is going to be the rest of the movie. She and her daughter would be going on a trip to Silent Hill, the place Sharon called out in the prologue and apparently always calls out when she sleepwalks to dangerous cliffs. I mean, I don't know why anyone would want to do that. Like if someone has a nightmare, you take them to the shrink. You don't take them to the place of their nightmares. What good could ever come of that? But you do you, I guess. As the camera pans out with the mother and daughter walking to their car, a verse from the Bible comes into focus. Do you not know that we will judge angels? Do you not know that the saints will judge the world? Obviously, this is a toolbox the filmmakers want us to save for later, but I've got to say that I'm not excited about where that leads. Anyway, in the next scene, we see Sharon's father, Christopher, Googling Silent Hill on his computer. What he finds is terrifying for him and for all of us. From Christopher's frustration, you can tell that he wasn't on board with his wife's plan to take their daughter to Silent Hill. Seeing all that stuff about Silent Hill being a ghost town certainly didn't help, but Rose, his wife, is obviously desperate, so she pretty much middle-fingered him and went on with what she had to do. And so we move back to Rose and Sharon, who have now started their trip. As they keep driving, Rose stops at a gas station to get gas. She picks up her child's drawing pad and checks out the sketches, which now look a lot darker than the sunny, happy pictures Sharon drew initially. But Sharon has no recollection of drawing any of those pictures, and in fact, she starts to cry. Rose hugs her and reassures her that it's all good, but she also wants to get coffee, and so she leaves her daughter in the car and walks into the coffee shop right at the gas station. And here I am watching with my flabber properly gasted. This place looks shifty as hell and super lonely. And you somehow think it's okay to leave your child alone in the car and go grab coffee? I do admire her courage and confidence in the humanity of mankind, though. I would never do that. In fact, if I was Sharon, I'm grabbing hold of my mom and following her everywhere, even if she wants to go number 2 in the bathroom. Anyway, while Rose is at the coffee shop trying to get stuff, this policewoman who had been observing mother and daughter when they got to the gas station walks up to Sharon. But she's smart, so she rolls up the window after telling her to pretty much get lost. Meanwhile, Rose's cards are denied at the shop because her husband blocked them. I guess to stop her from trying to take their daughter to Nightmare Land. Their conversation turns out to be an eye-opener. Apparently Sharon has been to different hospitals for her episodes, but she wasn't exactly getting better. So my bad for criticizing her move to take Sharon to Silent Hill. Also, turns out Sharon was adopted and originally from West Virginia, where Silent Hill is located. Oh boy, I do not like this. As the two resume their journey, the policewoman doesn't seem convinced by Rose's answer to her question that all was okay. So shortly after they hit the road, Rose hears sirens behind them. It's our policewoman and her extraordinary loud bike. Why was it so loud? At first, Rose stops to speak to the police officer, but she senses that the officer wouldn't let her go considering she was headed to Silent Hill. And that's when the first round of chaos begins. After telling her daughter to fasten her seatbelt, she hits the gas pedal, and for a brief second, the movie switches from Silent Hill to Fast and Furious. The car is bursting down gates, Sharon is screaming, and the officer is still giving chase. Mysteriously, the radio starts to make disturbing noises, which causes Sharon to scream. Rose is distracted now, but she looks up in time to see this young girl, or maybe young girl ghost, on the road. She swerves to avoid hitting her, but she swerves too hard and knocks her head on the steering wheel. Then she wakes up, and it's winter. The town looks foggy anyway, and stuff is falling from the sky, which turns out to be ashes, not snow. Worse still, Sharon has left the vehicle. What the hell is this town? Anyway, Rose walks through the town trying to find her daughter. The town looks like it used to be alive, but now there are all these abandoned places like drugstores, pizza places, and the rest. Rose finally catches a glimpse of Sharon, but Sharon is running away from her or running towards something. She descends this flight of stairs, and of course things get weirder. It suddenly gets dark and starts to rain, and I'm thinking, of course, why not? Rain makes everything more dramatic after all. While she's trying to look through the dark, scary streets, Sharon appears behind a gate, but when Rose turns to her, she takes off again. Of course, Rose goes after her, but as tourist attractions in Silent Hill, she's greeted by a body bag. prologue, a crucified zombie, and a zombie child that looks like it's a burning goblin. Sorry, scratch that, and make it an army of children going after her. Luckily for her, she finds a door, although it's barricaded by something like a chair. She manages to push through and falls on the floor, so she just starts crawling while these burning goblins persistently go after her. And I'm just here hoping for Rose's sake that this is not the type of situation where one of them bites you, and you become like them, because she's too pretty to be a goblin. Anyway, true to form, before the burning goblins can do anything to her, something makes them disappear, and before our poor darling Rose can get a reprieve, she wakes up in another place. Honestly, now I don't know what to think about this place. Is this place haunted? But haunted places don't just shapeshift or play shift like that. Or did Rose suffer a concussion when she hit her head on the steering wheel, and now all of this is just in her mind? I have questions. Why do the scenes keep switching? Anyway, this next scene looks like an abandoned bowling alley with a creepy song playing in the background. It's Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, and that guy's voice was beautiful, not gonna lie. But an apocalyptic setting is not the place to appreciate beautiful voices. And Rose agrees with me, so she runs out of the bowling alley and finds herself on the streets again. She runs forward, still looking for Sharon, but she gets to the abrupt end of the road, which dips into a cavernous abyss, and now she's at the dead end. Just then, she hears a voice behind her. Perfect. Just what she needs to startle herself into the abyss. Rose turns back and sees this filthy woman who tries to warn her about some evil people who want to hurt the woman's own child. Thinking she's found someone who could empathize, Rose tries to show this woman a picture of her Sharon, but the woman said Sharon was hers and tried to snatch the picture from Rose. Honestly, I thought Rose was going to push the woman off the cliff, but she didn't. She just shoved her and ran for her life, heading back to her car. On her way and in the car, she finds these drawings that were most likely drawn by Sharon. Of course, Sharon is still nowhere to be found, and of course, when Rose tries to start the vehicle wouldn't start, so she calls her husband, admitting that she was wrong. Their daughter was lost and that she needed him. From the pictures, Rose thinks she can deduce where Sharon is, though, and just when she's about to go and find her, Johnny Law is at her window and she arrests Rose. Meanwhile, Christopher had received his wife's message, although there was a lot of static that muddled up the whole thing. He was already looking for them anyway, so he continued on to Silent Hill. But at the gate, yep, the same gate Rose busted down earlier, he met law enforcement who told him that they'd found Rose's Jeep, but no sign of Rose or her daughter. While all that is going on, Officer Bennett and Rose are getting along wonderfully. Rose thinks Bennett is a pompous jerk who knows nothing about the real world, and Bennett thinks Rose is a big city jerk who may or may not be a child abuser. Mostly may. Bennett soon sees things for herself though. First she sees the cavernous abyss, and then she sees the goblin child, and for some reason she commands the thing to stop. No crap, genius. Of course, some goblin monster has respect for the law. Rose, by the way, has figured out that this Officer Bennett would get them both killed the way she was carrying on, so she ditches Bennett the minute she's distracted and tries to break free from the cuffs. But she doesn't. She does manage to bring her still cuffed hands to the front though. Nicely done, ma'am. In the drawing she found in the car, Sharon had painted a school, so Rose sets out to look for the school. There are all kinds of religious inscriptions around the school, but you can tell they were being used for something twisted by some religious extremists. While all that is going on, Officer Gucci and Christopher are driving through Silent Town looking for Rose, Bennett, and Sharon. Odd thing is, the town does not look creepy. Abandoned, yeah, but definitely not creepy. Back at the haunted school, Rose is still looking for Sharon, but then she finds his desk with the word witch written on a silhouette of palm prints. Of course, movie people must be adventurous, so she opens the desk and finds some books. One of them has the name, Alessa, and for some reason her discovery makes her flashback to seeing a girl tormented by her peers and being called a witch. Don't look at me, I can't explain that either. Once again, she catches a glimpse of Sharon, but when she enters into the hall she thought she saw Sharon disappear into, an abandoned bathroom appears. Looking at this bathroom is making my skin crawl, for more reasons relating to the fact that this is an abandoned communal bathroom than the fact that this is a literal house of horror that Rose is walking through. In one of the stalls, Rose finds a body that has been, strangulated, crucified, whatever it was horrifying, and the body had a key in its mouth. Once again, our movie person does what no human being would ever do in real life, reach into the body's mouth and pull out the key. Frankly, I'd sooner clap myself than do that. At least I get to go out on my own terms, but considering what kind of dystopian purgatory this place is, I'm pretty sure taking the easy way out is not on the table. Anyway, Rose tries running from the bathroom, but then these guys in gas masks are on the other side of the door, so she locks the bathroom door and starts to pray. Well, her prayers get answered in the best way you could hope for in this disgusting nightmare of a world. The gas mask people suddenly leave when their bird starts acting all crazy, but then the bathroom turns into some disgusting otherworldly scene, and the corpse she got the key from comes back to life and starts to slither like the pet reptile of Satan. I'll spare you the details of this world because it's disgusting, and talking about it is absolutely traumatic, so we'll just fast forward that. Thank you very much. Anyway, in the middle of this tale of 1,000 horrors, Rose's husband and Officer Gucci finally enter the school. Once again, it looks abandoned, but it's a bright and sunny day, not at all like the nightmare of horrors Rose is in. And then it just clicks. Rose is locked in some kind of hellish alternate reality. You can't exactly say it's not real per se, but it's definitely not the real world. But anyway, let's move on. One time, Rose thinks she's found Sharon, but it turns out to be some other little girl just sitting there possessed and drawing maniacally. Finally, Rose just gives up. These giant roach demons start approaching her to eat her up, but she doesn't even try. Lucky for her, Officer Bennett comes in and drags her out into a room and locks the door. But there's a Grim Reaper kind of guy that's also after them, and he pierces the door through with his sword. I kind of feel like Officer Bennett might die here. It's something this crazy movie would do. Luckily, she doesn't expire just yet. Instead, she shoots the Grim Reaper guy with her gun, and then he and his demon roaches leave. The scene changes again again, and Rose and Bennett make their way to the hotel on the key from the corpse, Grand Hotel. Meanwhile, Chris is escorted back to his car by the police, having found nothing in Silent Hill. He tries to call the police records department on his way, but they wouldn't talk to him about Silent Hill, so he's at yet another dead end. Back at the hospital, Rose meets her first friend in this jacked up dystopian world, the filthy woman that wanted to steal her daughter's picture. Small world, right? Anyway, there's another woman at the hotel too, and she's throwing stuff at the filthy woman. Eventually, filthy woman leaves, and then Rose and Bennett try to find out what's up with this woman. Her name is Anna, and she's obviously psychotic. This is also another religious extremist. Now I'm sure you're probably wondering what's been going on in the land of the living since all of this has been unfolding. Well, Chris decided to delve into breaking and entering. If the authorities wouldn't give him information, best believe he was going straight into the horse's mouth for himself and grabbing that info. I've got to tell you though, I don't see how the records office looks any different from Silent Hill. The department is as empty and devoid of color as the town of nightmares itself. All the department is missing is an ever-burning coal mine along with an army of demon roaches. Plus, this archive must have no record of value in it because our guy got in without any effort at all. Probably give him a tiny star for breaking the glass to the records room himself. Other than that, it was like taking candy from a baby. Anyway, Chris is going through the records and holy cow, he sees a picture of Sharon, except that it's not Sharon. It's Alessa Gillespie. Yep, the same Alessa Gillespie witch girl from the town of nightmares. Chris figures that Alessa must be Sharon's birth mother, which means that the possessed girl with the maniacal drawing was actually Alessa. This makes me super uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Rose, Bennett, and Anna band together to look for Sharon. As they continue on their search, Rose and Bennett find out that the people of Silent Hill were witch hunters who gratuitously burned anyone they suspected to be a witch at the stake. The trio make their way into room 11-1 at the hotel, the same room number that was on Alessa's case file at the archive department. Apparently, something really bad happened to Alessa in that room, and while I do sympathize with her, I'm not sure I'm interested in finding out because mental health and stability. But hey, wait a minute. Has this all been going on in one day? What? Like literally zero chills in this movie, man. By the way, I hope you're not shocked to hear that room 11-1 was an entire world on its own. Definitely not just a room. Searching through the ruins, Rose finds Alessa, but it's a figment of her imagination. She finally realizes that it was Alessa who led them here all along. It doesn't matter anyway because Anna says they have to go because the darkness is coming. Rose seems hesitant because the church Anna is leading them into seems familiar. Dahlia, the filthy woman, shows up again to warn Rose and Bennett not to go into the church. Rose finally figures out that Dahlia must have been Alessa's mother and tries to find out from her why Alessa brought the two of them to this world. Before she can get an answer, the darkness comes and Dahlia appears to have summoned Grim Reaper Guy, who picks Anna up and literally tears her flesh away from her bones, flinging it at the church doors just as Rose and Bennett enter into the church. While inside, we meet Christabella, the head of the church, who saves Bennett and Rose from getting mobbed by the church people, who are 100% sure that both of them are witches. But of course, it's obvious that Christabella is pure evil. We just have to wait a little bit for her to unleash the dragon. Anyway, the church people start to pray some really weird prayers, but it makes the darkness go away, so I guess it works. When Rose manages to get some alone time with Christabella, she asks the church matriarch to tell her where her daughter is. Christabella tells Rose that her daughter is with some demon that no one ever meets and survives, but as the kind and gracious matriarch that she is, she helps Rose and Bennett get to the place where they are supposed to find the demon before leaving them to their fate with her very best wishes. As she turns to leave though, she tries to return Sharon's photo to Rose, but then Christabella sees the photo and sees Sharon's striking resemblance to Alessa. Of course, she can't let either Rose or Bennett live, but Bennett sacrifices her life so Rose can make a run for it and find her daughter. Rose makes a run for it and finally gets to the room where Alessa is. Inside the room, Alessa welcomes her and finally gives her the backstory. Apparently, Alessa was a child of a single mother, Dahlia, and the people around her bullied her because she didn't know who her father was. Relatable. Not only that, a school janitor got sussy with her, and that's who ended up becoming the mutilated corpse Rose found in the school bathroom. Sounds about right for a disgusting monster. Now, wouldn't you know it, Christabella was actually Dahlia's sister, and because Dahlia wouldn't tell who Alessa's father was, she and her religious cult decided that Alessa was evil and declared that Alessa needed to be purified. I don't understand why Dahlia believed Christabella because that woman's face is so uncomfortable, but she did, and she gave Alessa to Christabella, who now took her to the Grand Hotel with the rest of her cult to burn Alessa alive. They put Alessa on some metal ring that was molded to have some cult symbol and hung her over a cauldron of maybe hot coal or lava. Now, fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, Officer Gucci and his team step in before Alessa dies and rescues her, but the fire destroyed pretty much all of the town. Man, Alessa was badly burned, and so understandably she was afraid and angry and vengeful. Now from here it gets pretty confusing, not gonna lie, so you've got to pay attention. Anyway, here goes. So there's Alessa, but she's got like several versions of herself. There's the innocent little girl who became Sharon that Rose and Chris adopted. Then there's also Dark Alessa, who's causing all the chaos in the nightmarish alternate reality of Silent Hill as an act of revenge. I guess there are others, but they haven't been revealed yet. Not even sure I want to meet them. I just want the nightmare to end at this point. Plus, the timeline doesn't exactly make sense. Sharon was born in 1995 according to the movie, because it's 2004 and she's 9. But Dark Alessa made the deal with Burned Alessa to take revenge in 1974, after which she dropped Sharon, the last bit of goodness in Alessa, at the orphanage. So like, how did the whole Sharon thing work? You didn't think we'd notice, did you, Mr. Movie Producer? But I've got to give kudos to this actor. She's really killing it, but I really do hope her parents took her to therapy afterward. This kind of acting cannot be good for a kid's mental health. I mean, I'm an adult, and I would never go within 10 feet of an acting job like this. This child is so brave, but still, therapy. Anyway, Alessa co-ops Rose into her revenge-seeking plan. Because of the cult's blind conviction, Alessa reveals that she can't exactly get into the church. So Rose agrees to be possessed by Dark Alessa so Dark Alessa can enter the church and exact her revenge. Meanwhile, we learn that Sharon is with Dahlia, who's been protecting her in her home all along. But Christabella finally finds Dahlia and Sharon, and now they want to burn Sharon like they burned Alessa. Some people just never learn. By the way, we also find Officer Bennett. Apparently she isn't dead, but she sure is about to be, as the crazy cult is about to burn her too. Okay, hold up. Something just hit me. Why is Christabella looking the exact same age she looked back in 1974 when the fire happened? Oh damn, Christabella and her cult actually died in that fire. That's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only explanation for why Christabella hasn't aged, because if you back up and look at Officer Gucci and Dahlia from the throwback, they look younger than they are in the present time, but Christabella is the exact same age. Interesting. Anyway, Rose couldn't step in on time to save Officer Bennett, but she stepped in just before they burned poor Sharon. She tried to tell the crazy cult the truth about how they all burned in the fire, and the apocalypse they claimed they were trying to stop with the burning of witches was not a thing. But of course the response was the same: burn her. And when Rose wouldn't stop telling Christabella the truth, especially how she was using the people's fear to control them, Christabella stabs her with a knife and seemingly kills her. The sick people rejoice, but they stop laughing when they realize that Rose is still alive. The blood that drips from her wound destroys the church as the wound heals itself. Both Alessas then show up from underground: burned Alessa and Dark Alessa. Many tentacles of barbed wires which are projecting from burned Alessa's hospital bed then strangulate and kill all the cult members. Christabella's death is of course special. She gets a tearing into two, a la Hellraiser, while Dark Alessa dances in the rain of her blood. That's cold, man. Even Dahlia has to ask what she has become, and it would appear that Alessa has sort of poisoned Rose, because Rose also kills one of the cult members. In the middle of all that, Rose goes to pick up Sharon from the stake to which she was tied. She convinces her daughter that it was all just a bad dream and that she could just close her eyes. Sharon initially listens, but eventually she opens them again and catches the eyes of Dark Alessa looking down at her. Soon after, she passes out and wakes up in a different scene, although still the foggy world, except that Christabella and the rest of the cult are no longer there. Only Dahlia remains. As they walk out of the church to the car, Rose wonders aloud why Dark Alessa spared her, and Rose repeats a line that Bennett told her initially: because you were her mother. Mother is God in the eyes of a child. As Sharon and Rose leave the church, Sharon gets the look in her eyes that makes me believe Dark Alessa is now inside her. And I know she is because when they get back to the car, it miraculously starts working again for reasons I can only attribute to Alessa's powers. Anyway, Rose and Sharon return home, but we quickly find out that they are not home. Instead, they are in an alternate reality version of their home that has the same foggy look of Silent Hill. Meanwhile, Chris is left all alone in the real world, hoping and waiting for his wife and daughter, who will never return. By the way, Rose called Chris on her way back from Silent Hill, telling him they were on their way, but all Chris heard was static and broken up words. And now he has to live with that forever and ever. And wow, that's the end of the movie. That's literally it. I am not okay. Moral of the story? I have no idea. But the games were pretty cool.